Hey, what's going on, everyone? So, I'm going to go live. I'm going to do a live with one of my clients actually today. Oops. Let me try to get him in here. I see Facebook changed where you can go live for him again. All right. So, I'm just going to give it a little bit. And so, I'll be interviewing one of my clients today about his weight loss journey. And I'll just wait for him to join and we'll go from there. I'm kind of visiting my parents here in Vegas, so a different background, kind of using their room. So, let me play around with the lighting here. There we go. Cool. Hey, what up, Robbie? Good to see you. I'm just waiting for a guest today. I'm going to be interviewing one of my clients about their weight loss journey. Robbie, what's going on? I'm here in Nevada visiting my parents in Las Vegas to be more particular. So I'm kind of using one of their guest rooms, so different background today. Let me know how your year's coming along. 2024 kind of flew by. All right, Nathan's here. Okay, I didn't know you lived in Nevada, or I didn't know you lived in Las Vegas. Text me afterwards. I was planning on actually going and driving around Red Rock Canyon and kind of checking out that area. Nathan, what's going on, man?
Hey,
Good to see you again.
how's it going, Eugene?
Looking much swoller than the last time I've seen you 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys, just to give you a background, I've never actually seen Nathan in person. He's like one of my remote coaching clients, and I actually haven't seen him for probably close to 6 months since our initial assessment. I usually do a mechanical assessment with clients before we begin the program, and it kind of takes place on video. But Nathan, I'm going to let you take over, and then I'll just try to sound smart and guru-like by asking sophisticated questions here and there. But I just wanted to kind of wing it and just get your backstory on kind of like your struggles with weight over the years, and mainly kind of like your journey, what kind of journey you've gone on, what things you've done in the past that you kind of feel like maybe weren't the right things and are waste of time, et cetera, et cetera. So you're welcome to start at any time of the timeline, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Um, I I have been on a fitness journey my whole life. I was overweight in middle school and high school. And I did different layers of different diets where, I was eating the same thing every day, just trying to just do what different places were saying. Um, I started going to the gym when was that? About 2007. And just kind of got familiar with that then. And the routine was kind of always um, hit or miss. It just it didn't have any real structure other than I was trying to put something together myself. Um, and I mean, I feel like I've gotten a lot fitter over the years. I know that, the before and after pictures, you got some really good ones. Um, I have, I've tried a lot of things as far as modalities for like acupuncture and chiropractic and things like that for pains and stuff. And I just always wanted to figure out what the next push was going to be. And the diet, the last point I feel like the best point to start is kind of just all over the place. Sorry,
Mhm.
but
That's
the
usually how I do my podcast too.
right before getting involved with you, I was going to the gym every other day for like maybe 3 days a week. It had gotten down to maybe like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, something like that. But it had been including maybe like every other day for a bit. And the food was really about trying to get protein and like having protein powders that were just standard GNC stuff that was just, whey protein and all of this, taking that pre-workout, all of the stuff, and then the food, just eating whatever. And I kind of justified, I go to the gym, I work out so I can eat whatever I want. And to a certain degree, that was true. But it wasn't really getting me where I wanted to be. I wanted like a much more lean tone defined, all of that. And I don't mind giving like a 360 if you want an after now too to show. But all of that kind of had reached a point where I knew I needed to do something, and I was looking for a trainer. And when I'm looking for a trainer, I had certain qualifications. I wanted somebody that was older than me because metabolism is not going to get faster, or we're not going to get younger exactly. And I wanted somebody that had so much of a philosophical mindset, which I found, and all of these factors that, and then the testimonials. You had people older than me that were going from, um, daddy to zaddy is one way to put it, and so I knew that you knew whatever the programming was. And the idea of doing something remote was a little intimidating because I'd had trainers in the gym before. And it was like maybe a month of programming where they tell you to do your reps and stuff. But it's kind of, getting a trainer that way was essentially the same as physical therapy to me because they teach you how to do something. And then I don't want to keep going and paying for someone to tell me to do this motion and count it. Um, so that wasn't, having trainers in person hadn't really been a ticket to winning either. And there was something I know about, just nutrition that I wanted to get clear on, and that was a big component to your program that made sense. And it was very natural, organic, all of that angle. I feel like there's so many things that we try to supplement or pre-workout and post all these things to give us this edge, that's all a glamour. And so I wanted to get down to the core and the root of it. And there was something about you that really resonated in that respect. And it was very accurate. And so that's kind of what got me to where I was with you. And before that, it had just been various levels of, eating some kind of healthy way and doing some kind of exercise, but it was not structured or, didn't have a whole lot of definition. And I think there's something to be said about the lack of structure and definition in the planning and the results. And the more structured and defined the goals, the regimen, and all becomes, and the aim and the consistency, it all concentrates into an effect. And so that's been really fun to experience the transformation through. Um, what else? What else am I not hitting?
No, it's okay. Well, you mentioned some key important parts that are stumbling blocks for a lot of people that are seeking answers. And I feel like the online world, it's like a double-edged sword, more like against you than for you in a lot of cases, and it causes way more confusion than necessary, you know? So a lot of people, unfortunately, just overcomplicate simple health solutions just to kind of stand out in the marketplace too. And they have to kind of over dramatize everything just to kind of sound more like a guru and et cetera, at the detriment of their viewers. Although they do sound sophisticated and smart, it just causes a lot more confusion with the viewership. And I was just wondering, from a kind of a patient's perspective, like what your experience with that, with the online world and kind of
Oh,
seeking answers there.
oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean, you can find that was part of it in the idea of meeting the goals I wanted. You can find this study and that study that says this and that. Is this the solution or is that solution? Is this what I need to be? So there's so many things that you can get an information overload. When it comes to other trainers and such, there's a lot of influencer stuff that's very charismatic, that's very, I don't know, it's just very selling over. I don't know, there's some quality that's too bright, too shiny. And it's got some quality of just kind of glamour is how I see it. And it's just what we think of when we think of like Instagram influencer, that archetype. Something I wanted that you had is a very kind of just a solid, not over the top approach, and it boils down to keep it simple, stupid. A KISS approach is something I've heard elsewhere. Keep it simple, stupid. And that really was a key factor in this because it boils down to something so simple that anybody can do it. And then it's a matter of your discipline and your willpower and why you will or will not do what it does or does not take. Um, and so like I mean one example I want to kind of give with that is when it comes to diet. Sure, I think the maths and numbers in, numbers out and categories, they've got all sorts of nutritional calculators out there where you can scan the barcode on all of your food and it'll put it all together and register it. And the tool that you provided is something that I will continue to use instead of something like that for various reasons because I don't need my nutritional everything coming through barcodes. one thing that I like is a simpler approach. Like it really is. It's not a diet with you, and it's not like just an exercise thing. It's a lifestyle change. And there's been a change in the time of working with you. And part of that is the food choices. You have to be willing to go back, well, not go back, but return to that simple, organic, initial, original, all of those things of simple whole foods. And we think, oh, I shop at Whole Foods. Well, no, that doesn't exactly do it.
Hmm.
But if you just kind of get down to the biology and I'm like, and that's something that was missing beforehand. And all the food that I was eating, I was going to the grocery store and loading up the cart with all sorts of fun, sparkly things and all sorts of interesting, sparkly packages. And having an approach that is not that is so much simpler and more effective and more efficient to achieve the results that eating and the biology is designed for. All the other stuff, I mean, the grocery store is a Las Vegas slot machine now. The lights, the
Hmm.
sound, the pack, I mean, it is. Um, and I don't know, when I aligned with you, that resonance, I was ready to make a healthy shift, an upgrade, elevated type of shift. And it's not going to be something like, I don't even, the odemic or obsemic or whatever. Like, it's
Ozempic.
not a shot, it's not a pill, it's not just like a no carb diet or whatever. It's not a one thing, it's like a whole thing. And it is simple and it's basic. And I think it's funny to think, in the training and the programming and all, um, getting through the resistance of all of those things that we're just used to is
Hmm.
is probably the hardest shell to crack at the beginning. But once it's figured out, like at this point with everything's just kind of flowing, everything just kind of makes sense. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned a few cool things. I mean, I got to give a little bit of a shout out to George Orwell's 1984 when you kept saying, "I don't want to live through barcodes." That gave me those 1984 vibes. I don't know if you read that book. It's pretty
I'm
popular, but
familiar, yeah, it's
yeah.
archetypal.
But anyways, yeah, I mean, you mentioned a few important things. So first and foremost, even with this video, I would highly recommend the listeners like literally outside of just general ideas of what to investigate into, I would highly recommend just not listening to anyone online, even if they're very credible, because this is the reason, because they never met you personally. And them giving you like health advice, especially like, for example, nutrition advice is the same as like you go to a doctor's office and they don't even talk to you or know you. And they're like, here, just take this medication. It's like, dude, you would instantly know that there's something wrong, you know? So even with very credible and competent people, maybe like Paul Chek, you can listen to online, they just never met the viewer personally and they don't know their unique circumstances, like where they're starting, their unique, where's their metabolic or hormonal health currently, how is their digestive system doing, how's their work schedule, how's their like where is their starting place, you know what I mean? And to give people like, oh, just do this, you know what I mean, or just do that, I think you should be very, very careful because there are no absolutes either. And a lot of times, the very popular personalities online, they state things in an absolute, like, again, George Orwell's Animal Farm, uh, two legs bad, four legs good, because that's what appeals to the audience, to the masses of these simple kind of like meat is good, vegetables are bad, or work out this way, CrossFit, integrative, not like isolative. You know what I mean? These kind of like absolute statements. And that will always misguide the viewer. So I would highly recommend just for the people even listening to this, like, hey, um, if the health provider did not meet you personally and did not run you through at least a 2 to 3 hour assessment, which is required for like healthy individuals and people that are have a lot more pathology, the assessment takes even longer than that. The advice most likely isn't going to work in your favor. It might be in your detriment as well. And even if it does provide some kind of relief, it's going to be very short lived and probably confuse you even more. So just a quick take. Um, but you also mentioned like another thing, remote coaching versus in person. Um, how was your experience with both?
Um, I feel like I mean, I feel like I was at a point where I knew a lot of the basics when it came to being in a gym, which gave me a little bit of an edge. That I'm not coming to you fresh from, no experience, but you did a great job with the assessment. Like you said, meeting somebody, it is different. As you were talking, I was saying, like when you watch videos of someone that is just telling it the public how to do something, there is such a degree and a range of variance among individuals that if they haven't met you and they haven't had that interaction, they don't know the specific circumstances. But in mine, I had worked with in-person trainers before, and like when I first started a gym, that's how I got familiar at a gym. But then for an online trainer, you've been great in the sense of the check-ins. Like, I mean, we talk once a week. We text whenever I need, when I've got questions and such. And I kind of rebelled a lot against videotaping everything that I did. I know after I kind of got the basics done, but having that familiarity in a gym or just the confidence already with doing an exercise, I think helped in the respect of being okay with something online or by remote. However, when you have an in-person coach and trainer, my experience was somebody that was standing with me, modeling how to do a machine, and then counting me doing the machine. So that didn't really do, like I said, any more than like physical therapy is pretty much the same thing. And once you get it, you get it. And I had done that a couple rounds and been around a gym environment, so I understood how to do some of the basics. I will say that I did still, when I did the videotaping, I appreciated the feedback with certain things to minimize injuries or maximize the muscle that we're working in, and just steps that I've needed to get more mind body conscious of what I'm doing, what it's working, and then those patterns and routines in what I'm doing each week and how they make sense for the body. That's been appreciated because, like I said, it just kind of been like upper, lower, or, and it's
Hmm.
kind of all over the place and without as much structure before. And then again, it's just that kind of information paralysis of so many different possibilities. You should structure it this way. You should structure it that way. You should be eating like this. You should be eating like that. And it's a lot of uncertainty, um, unless unless someone's the expert. And I want to stress, I really do find you to be an expert in this art form of the body and how it works and how the effective efficient. And it's really, I feel like there's an emotional journey for everybody, in that, in the sense of the confusion with what we've been taught and been doing, and the resistance to changing that which has become comfortable or indoctrinated. But the solution is very simple and very effective. And you've been very good. You're not overly charismatic, Eugene, in the sense of like rah rah rah. I don't know if you were going for that, but you're very stoic in a sense of holding a calm space that's like you're only going to be able to push and move someone as fast and as able and willing as they're able to push and move themselves. And you're good at kind of holding that space and continuing to nudge where the person is slack, and then kind of be patient as they make whatever progress. And so that's been the approach that fits. And I really think any doctor, like a mechanic, like an electrician, like a psychic, like a whatever, you resonate with who you resonate with. And some people have good and bad and different experiences, and I feel like I worked myself to a place where I was ready and able to work with you. And I also want to point out, for one of the initial blocks for me was the financial aspect of committing to an extended program, and wondering, this is remote. Is this going to work for me? Is this going to be worth it? And I had been looking all over and assessing things, and something that is effective and efficient and produces the results would be worth it, was what was evaluated. and circumstances. I desired what I wanted, and I got to a point where I was ready to accept it, and the things aligned that allowed me to participate in it. There was a resistance or a first, or I can't make this happen. It's not right. Well, when it was right. And stepping into that, I I've verified the certainty that working with you did generate what I was looking to do. And so just that aspect of it, of committing, I think there's something to be said with when we make that commitment to working with someone and to ourselves. You're really ready to say, okay, I really am going to pay attention. If I've committed in this respect, I am going to track this the way that somebody said. I am going to accept the discipline of an expert that I have agreed knows what they're talking about, produces these results, and lives this way, walks their talk the way that you do, through all the results of all the clients that everybody can see. I mean, you have fabulous clients and testimonies that all speak for themselves. That was one thing that called to me for you. I mean, you were making it happen, obviously. Um, and I felt like I was a fairly bright individual that could listen and do simple steps, and it really was that simple. Um, it's just you're willing. Someone can say, "Yeah, you should really eat healthy," or you should really stop eating all these things that come in packages. And someone will say, "Yeah, that's really good advice," and then it just kind of fades away until you're like, "I really, I desire that. I'm ready," or whatever it is. They've got to want it, and they've got to step into it. And I think that finds the match whenever it's time.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up a few good points. I'm going to kind of go back in time here a little bit. So first, like the financial aspect of getting coaching, I find that like probably 9.5 out of 10 times to be um, just as an excuse to not take accountability and action for something that people know they need to do, but it may be kind of stressful to kind of meet it head on. You know what I mean? And I got this saying from Robert Kiyosaki, so it's not even mine, but he mentioned something like pretty powerful. And then I started catching myself doing it more often once I heard it this way. And he was talking about it from a financial perspective as well. He's like, oh, I tell people like buy houses or whatever, do this and this. And they're like, oh, I don't have the money. And he's like, well, I find most of the time um, excuses are easy because they instantly allow you, at least in the short term, to avoid the responsibility for making the change that the person probably knows they need to make and the stress and sometimes worry that comes with that change because it's uncertain. You know what I mean? And it's so convenient and easy to make those excuses. But that's all they really are, and just convenient and easy in the short term. But in the long term, they make your life exponentially harder. So like for example, like the average American spends eight to $16,000 a year on non-essential expenses every single year. On these non-essential expenses could be categorized as like eating out, alcohol, cigarettes,
It's
subscription
just
services like Netflix.
it's immediacy culture. It's that instant gratification. It's that idea. I mean, something that I think there's an element of a long-term commitment that can drive can drive us into backsliding towards whatever's familiar and comfortable. And there has to reach a tipping point where you want the change, you want the transformation more
Yeah.
than you want the comfortable familiarity of that which you're slowly recognizing is not working. And not working, I feel like I had a certain amount of luxury in the extent that I wasn't like in a super unhealthy state, but that was a qualification I wanted in a training program. I had a certain physique I wanted, but I wanted it achieved in a healthy way. I'm not here for some, fast with steroids or whatever the quick fix, Ozemic for fat loss, all these things. That's not the lasting solution.
Hmm.
And that something the work something about your program and having a keyword of just integrity, just the integrity of everything making sense, everything adding up, everything. It speaks for itself, and it doesn't need a flashy sign, and it doesn't need a all of this. And I think you resonate and you attract the clients that are meant to work for you. And I'm very glad and blessed and fortunate and happy to sing your praises with gratitude, because it has been of extreme value for myself. And the putting that up there, being making that healthier choice, it was almost like my unhealthy things had kind of become shadow elements that I wasn't really that mindful. I thought I was pretty healthy, and I just wasn't getting the body I wanted. It's more
Hmm.
than that though. It's just a total health. It's a lifestyle health change. I mean, that's all I can say kind of with that. And I think the tipping point is when you want the change more than you want the addiction or whatever, whatever it is that lures us, that quality of, an addiction is not the right word, but the attachment to the familiarity, the
Yeah, I'm going to
attachment to
interject. The phrase you're looking for, and I'm kind of probably going to mess it up here, is change will never happen until, how does it work? I haven't heard this in forever, but hopefully I could remember it. But I think it said something like change will never happen until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of changing, something like that. But you guys can connect the dots. And yeah, it goes back to exactly, it's not a finance issue. It's moreover a fear of change issue most of the time. And then also, like you mentioned, the worst place oftentimes to be is in a gray comfort zone where it's not ideal, it's not what you want, but it's not that bad. You know what I mean? And that will oftentimes, for many people, for a lot of people, halt any kind of change. And also, unfortunately, in our society today, especially in American culture, there's a lot of normalized mental and physical illness. 9 out of 10 Americans right now are metabolically sick. So there's also the misperception or the delusion of a lot of people that are very unhealthy that think they are actually healthy still. You know, I get people sometimes that are 30 pounds overweight and on 2 medical drugs, um, and say they're doing just fine because the person probably next to them in the office is 60 pounds overweight on 5 different medical drugs. So the standards have fallen dramatically. So thus, a lot of people that are actually very mentally and physically unwell think they're normal or okay, or the way they're living is totally okay, where it's not. It's what I refer to as like normalized pathology in our culture, because that's what it is. And statistically speaking, it's not just my opinion. 9 out of 10 Americans are metabolically sick. 50% of Americans develop cancer in their lifetime. Close to 800,000 Americans die from heart disease every year. And close to 40 to 45% of Americans are on some type of psychiatric medication. So usually when you're getting these kind of statistics, it's not because the culture is doing well.
yeah.
But a lot of people just see that as a normal way of life right now because it's tough to see anything else because everyone around you is so living in this culture of normalized illness.
I've been blessed to have kind of crawled out of just some bad eating habits from early life and family that has led, a lot of obesity in the family. I've dodged diabetes and things like that from just the unhealth. I mean, I remember as a kid when uh soda, a 2 liter of soda was always on the table, and that was just what you filled the glass with. And then when you wanted a refill, I mean, and growing up and then finding out that's kind of like eating a piece of cake over and over. Um, but things like that get normalized, and then all of the pills and medications. I've been very uh, adamant that I don't want to need medications, and it was also very nice to find, as your program kind of shows, a lot of the supplements that everybody's like, if you have the right combination and the right formula, your body's going to get all the stuff. It's all real simple, and
Mhm.
all of that is not necessary. And I mean, I forget if it's you or where I've heard, or that, the whole supplement industry is just like huge, but
Mhm.
it's not doing anything. But so many people are buying into it,
Mhm.
literally. Like it's making so much money off of something that isn't really effectively efficient and helpful in the same extent that it is. Um, and so, yeah, a lot of people may think, living with on this and that is normal and healthy just from the culture I think that we've grown up in. And I mean, I especially know through like my parents and the older, that's just the way we did things. And, you know, to the degree that if you have that mentality, it's not ready to change. And my mentality has been throughout this process very, I want it to be uh, natural. I like, you know, I already had the value of like organic food, which, you know, your entire program and system promotes for all of the right reasons, you know. But that in itself is a commitment for people. I mean, to think about the resistance some people have to like even buying organic groceries. Oh, I can't afford that. Or, you
Hmm.
know, I don't know. We have Aldi and Lidl here, and they're pretty affordable for like everything. I mean, it just depends on, I don't know. I tell this to students as well, you know, like I can't do this problem, I can't do this assignment. If you can generate excuses as to why you can't, then cool, great. You've got that. You've won that. But can you generate a solution?
Hmm.
And so it's about generating the solution. How can I get these groceries that are healthy for my body
Hmm.
instead of making up the story that promotes
Yeah.
why I can't do that?
Yeah, because
But that's
it's,
its own trick.
yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. I'm curious, have you ever been confused by the labels in the grocery store? In Yevgeny's book, he demystifies the difference between caged, cage-free, free-range, and pasture-raised meats. He also covers how to avoid GMOs, source high-quality water, fish, supplements, and other related topics. It's a beautifully illustrated, non-technical read that comes with a comprehensive video series and other extended learning materials. Jump on Amazon and check out the book titled Anti-Factory Farm Shopping Guide by Eugene Trufkin. Now let's dive back into the podcast.
But yeah, because it's easier to come up with an excuse. It relieves the responsibility of coming up with a solution,
Yeah.
you know, and that's why people fall on it so often. It's so sad, especially seeing guys in their 40s and 50s still falling in these loops, you know. Um, but yeah, I mean, you mentioned I hear it all the time too. Like I can't even afford organic food. So first of all, uh, like a 2,000 calorie organic diet, like USDA organic diet is about like $12.50 a day, you know, so it's not that expensive. And the exact people that are saying they can't afford that, which I think accounts to about like 4,700 or $5,000 a year for all organic 2,000 calorie a day diet every single day. Um, the very same people that say they can't afford that could afford those eight to $16,000 of non-essential expenses every single year without even thinking twice about it. So it's more over kind of a belief system issue.
It
They have
is.
the
It's all a
money,
mind game.
yeah, and I refer to it as like a mind virus because
Yeah.
in a sense that mind virus eventually leads to behaviors that deteriorate the biology of the body, you know, and lead to ill health, etc., and poor aesthetics and stuff of that sort. And then they kind of foolishly blame it on age or genetics, like even yeah, age or genetics or stuff like that. I'm like, oh no, it's I'm sure, you know, the reason for poor quality skin or being 30 pounds overweight is genetics, but not the fact that you're eating out like 3 or 4 times a week, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and stuff of that sort. Um, so yeah, and uh, in terms of the supplements, I agree. Like pretty much 99.9% of them are completely unnecessary if a person is eating a good whole food like organic diet. But there's a saying in the industry goes, pills pay the bills. You know, the profit margins in whole food are quite slim to none. Um, and and the profit margins and obviously supplements are quite larger. So that's why a lot of people tend to go towards even processing of food is quite larger. So like beef jerky versus just the piece of beef, you know what I mean? The profit margins are already much greater and stuff of that sort. So, and you also did mention going way back now. I have a tendency to kind of like rewind here on the conversation, but
Yeah.
going way back to in-person coaching. So a lot of times people think in-person coaching is like a superior form of coaching or something like that. But in fact, you know, I've been in the industry for 20 years. So in-person coaching is basically kind of for the most part a starter position. Okay. And there are some amazing in-person coaches that are like massively even better and more competent than I am. But they're really far in between. And even those coaches, they don't actually coach you in person. They do a thorough assessment of you in person, which is extremely valuable for sure. But they don't like sit there and count your reps and kind of, they're not basically like a rent-a-friend, which most in-person coaches end up becoming.
Mm-hmm.
And they're usually charging like $300 to $400 an hour on top of that to do those assessments, which are 100% worth it. I've hired coaches before in the past to do that, and the knowledge you get, you'll be able to keep and use for the rest of your life to benefit you for the rest of your life. But that's how good in-person coaching works. A great in-person coach isn't going to be your rent-a-friend and count your reps for you. That's kind of just not going to happen. And the other coaches that emphasize that kind of model are either doing boot camps, which I don't think are great for most people, especially in the starting position anyways, because that thorough assessment is never done. And on top of that, now you have like 20 people in a class that all have varying abilities somehow doing the same workout. And there's no emphasis on lifestyle, diet, self-sabotaging behavior, mental health, et cetera, et cetera. So oftentimes too in healthcare, I find like the most important thing, I'm getting blasted by the sun here at my parents' room. I need to figure out how to navigate the lighting here. But most of the time, the problem with healthcare is oftentimes it's so important to meet the problem at the level of the problem, you know? And many people have a problem at like various levels. So some people um, have a problem at the thinking dimension. Some people at the emotional dimension. Some people at the spiritual dimension. Some people at the biological dimension. Sometimes it's an education issue. Like they don't even know what the right food is or how to work out properly. And a lot of times it's like, as you know too, it's like all of the above, you know what I mean, to varying degrees. So a lot of times when people get coaching, just the emphasis is on managing the symptom of health through diet and exercise. And a lot of times that's just not meeting the problem at the level of the problem for most people. So, for example, if a person is an investment banker working crazy hours and they're already very stressed out, um, and there's a lot of maladaptive behavior that's occurring because of that unsustainable work environment, and they go to a CrossFit to try to fix their excessive weight issues through exercise, where the level of the problem is actually an unsustainable work schedule. So how is tackling that unsustainable work schedule and adrenal fatigue with even more beat down workouts going to help this person, for example? um, but yeah, so Nathan, I guess in the grand scheme of things, kind of going back now with because the journey was already so long even before we ran into each other. Now looking back and seeing, because I always emphasize this all the time, like health and wellness is all about mastery of the basics. Now, since it's quite easy and obvious to see like what needs to be done, um, what's your what's your kind of feedback and summary of saying like, hey, it's so easy. I just need to focus on these things.
Um, Figuring out what combination, I mean, just how to make the food adjustment was the hardest initial thing. But I like that the menu, so to speak, the menu that you give is all the stuff, it's all the basics, like, and it's whatever kind of food that grows out of the ground, basically. All the things are like naturally occurring foods. And getting that new mindset together was the biggest hurdle to tackle. Um, I was familiar with doing workouts, so I just had to kind of figure out how that patterning and what some of the unfamiliar stuff was. But you were great with all the resources for that. Um, I'll say, also continuing with this, but also going back with the in-person and the remote aspect of coaching and all. I think that you can have a great one in person or remote. What I found, and I had decided from it all, is that it matters more that you resonate with the person and their philosophy. Like their philosophy of health and wellness is going to be what you match up with. And so you being someone that does take the time to do those assessments and all of that stuff, and that has this program that is, you know healthy healthy in the sense of the food choices and why we're making those food choices, why the menu is the menu, why all of that really helped to make me feel safe and comfortable and confident that doing this is going to get where I'm trying to go. um and so that was kind of the motivation with throwing myself into a whole new diet, a whole new way of doing food. I mean, it's that was a big thing. For some, I think for someone else, it might be a whole new way of exercising. Someone that maybe has never exercised before or something. That could have been a lot more of a loop that was thrown for somebody. You mentioned someone like, you're right, having someone exercise more and stress out that's already in a stressful work vibe, that would have to be addressed first. I was fortunate that I was able to start this at a time when I had some time to dedicate to it. But then also my work patterning, as a teacher was fairly predictable and was easy to flow with. But so I think everybody's going to have some challenge to where their healthy lifestyle is out of alignment or out of balance. Um, but when there is, I think the commonality is a desire, a recognition that something is out of balance, and a desire for something that is better, feeling better, healthier, more vibrant, more alive, more, all of that is what will be the attraction feature for making a commitment to a lifestyle change versus what diet, pill, video, supplement, protein can I grab
Mhm.
to be the next band-aid to say I'm doing something, I'm trying something. It's just until it's almost like grabbing a modality, one thing after another until, all right, let's slow down and get back to the root and the core. And like you do, assess at the beginning, where are we at and what's the nature of the four corners of a person, and then start building towards where they're going from that. And for me, it was just health, feel good, and look good in pictures, which I think I've done.
Yeah, I find Americans are definitely like really addicted to symptom management healthcare. Like they'll do everything absolutely possible outside of create real change for themselves. And as a last resort, when eventually they find out none of that stuff works long term anyways, then they try to double down on real change if they do, but most don't ever change ever, you know? Yeah, it's pretty sad to see. Yeah,
I
I even
could,
get some people coming in, they're like 60 or 70 years old. And they're like, "Oh, I'll do it like next year." Next year. I'm like, dude, come on, man. Life is
well,
almost up for you. The average person dies at 76, you know?
if if you recall, like I reached out to you at a point with curiosity before I actually initiated the program, and I don't know how often that happens for you, but I was appreciative of that interaction too. But just you've got a very welcoming, not pushing, responding, all of these things that are resonating. You're going to resonate. The person's going to resonate when it's time, when it's right. But it was just really reassuring and all of that. But then it wasn't something that I could break through or could justify or could, I still had my excuses that first round, and I needed a little bit more time and things to grind away at that. So I think there's something to be said about just the right time, the right fit, the right everything kind of comes together for it.
Yeah. How's your experience now talking to um, just people that are like trying to lose weight and they tell you what they're doing, but then hearing what they're doing and it might be mimicking what you tried to do, but it never kind of worked in the past, you know?
Um, I have a few friends that are on their own journey in different respects, and a lot of people have seen my results and been like, "I'm gonna try to do that. What are you doing?" And like, some of the things, I have been singing the praise. I feel like Chicken Little a lot. I'm like, hey, just stop eating the packages. Like, I feel like there's almost like if I was to overeat in the quantity, and it's not. I mean, I want people to know this. Your diet is fully fulfilling. It's just a change. I feel like I
Hmm.
could overeat all of the foods that are available, and I get. stuff before I could cause any damage, and I'd still be healthier than most people just by virtue of not being loaded with some of the stuff that's so toxic. I mean, there's just a byproduct of just if you reduce your toxic load, your body will naturally get into a healthier alignment. And that's a natural byproduct of doing your program. Um, what else did
Yeah,
you
a
say?
lot of yeah, I forgot myself too. But regarding toxic load, a lot of people don't know that when your toxic load is quite high, your body will try to create more fat stores to store that toxicity away from your visceral tissue. Because your organ tissue is quite important, you know. So like you can go without like your right arm, but you can't go without your liver, you know. So it'll try to prioritize the health of your organ tissue, and it'll start creating more fat storage to kind of mitigate and take those toxic loads further away from your fat storage. That's why a lot of times when people lose weight initially, they feel quite sick because that body fat that's storing all that toxicity is now being metabolized and being reintroduced back into the bloodstream. Uh, that's not for everyone, but that's a common complaint. Like, oh, I have headaches. I feel like more sick now, et cetera, et cetera. At least for the first few weeks. Have you run into any friends that are like, oh, you know, I'm gonna bypass everything and just do Ozempic or something of that sort? I never seen it work long term, but we can talk about that.
I I have only ever even ran across one person I've heard of that did it, and I don't know, it felt like a shortcut. It seemed like a shortcut. Like the it's not a healthy lifestyle. It's just you can tell. I mean, I don't know. I kind of think you can tell the truth for the most part. We dress things up a lot of way, and there's lots of shiny packaging and advertising on things, but deep down, I think we all can kind of tell when something's right or
Hmm.
in alignment or true, or in integrity and all of these things. And like that's what that's what we are looking for ultimately. If we can quiet all the noise and the distraction and all of the competing ideas, there's just a flurry of information, and it's all out there. I feel like it's all competing for our dollar. I mean, it's
Hmm.
all of the different things. Like you said, it's more money to be made in a supplement than in the food, and all of these kind of ideas. I mean, we've all been duped in. I mean, and I think, Eugene, it's funny, like, while most of people are still like quote unquote under the spell, everybody kind of knows. Everybody kind of knows that most of these companies and corporate are not about our health or haven't been. They've just been about the profit. And then we say all this and we grumble about it, and then we go get our bag of Cheetos and we support it. And
Yeah.
so it's really when there's, when you're willing to align with that which you know is true. And instead of pulling the wool over your eyes and saying, I'm fine with the way things are. And I think we all peel the onion at whatever rate we're ready to do and whatever categories we prioritize and find matter most. Um, but I the I don't think any of the quick fix things are ever going to be that which is truly sustainable and fulfilling. They're not made of substance. They're not substantial. None of that stuff. It's like it's got to be from the core. It's got to be from the root. It's got to
Hmm.
be from the basics. And it is that simple foundational level that you are excellent at restructuring. You're helping people to restructure the ground floor of what it's like to be healthy. Um, and I feel like, it's healing and health is a lifelong journey because we're in this body for a lifetime. It's a life sentence. Um, and we all find our way along however we're directed. I mean, some people go their whole life and never, exercised or, it's never been a thing. I think we find our way to it when when our mind is right. And that's why again it comes more, I mean, the body and the health and all of these external things are the last part of the picture that's reflecting our mindset and our philosophy and our worldview and all of that. And so that's what's got to change. And if everybody, it's like now, if everybody knows with our knowledge that all of this stuff that they've been pumping at us is bad, then we have to understand that we've got to make a change in our direction if we don't want to head down the path we see that they have paved.
Hmm.
So it's a game of willpower, it's a game of discipline, and I think life is a game if you play it right. But
I don't know, like what willpower there is. It's like, dude, you have like choice. You know, you could either live a life of obesity, misery, and disease, which is extremely difficult to do. I don't know how people go their entire life without eating great food and working out. Dude, I could never do that because I don't have the pain tolerance to deal with that much misery. I don't know how people go their entire life. They must be like stronger than me
was
from
it
one vantage point.
they say pick your hard, like going to the gym every day is hard, but so
But
being
is it?
overweight is hard.
Dude, I love going to the gym. You look great. You feel amazing after. That pump is like basically like a drug addiction, you know?
It's all
Um,
in how you define it. It's all in how you define it. Because I would not say, some people find it daunting. It's just that it's unfamiliar. It's just that it's there's a block that I think people have with something that is in their best interest if they have been overly attached and addicted to something that is not. And
yeah.
it's just that inertia,
Yeah.
inertia for
The
change.
the framing
What you
is the framing is super important. Like Stefan Wolinski would say, um, you know, Buddhists, they spend their entire life, they have this spaciousness and then they label the spaciousness as emptiness and then spend their entire life meditating on the emptiness. But people that struggle with depression, that have that spaciousness, they label it as emptiness and build a negative frame around it and try to run away from it their whole life. So oftentimes it is all in the framing. It's a lot more
Yeah,
powerful than people think, but also it's in the environment too. You know, like if a person finished a drug rehab program and their intention is to get well, but then they go right back to the community with their druggy friends and drug dealer, and on top of that, probably not having a job because they've been in this rehab center for forever. The majority of people are just going to return back to drug addiction, you know, like easily like 95% of people. And I feel because American culture has normalized mental and physical illness, framing is important, but making sure, you know, you're around the right friends, family members that are supporting that health conscious movement. Not everyone has to do this, but the majority of people will greatly benefit by that. Like I guarantee you, if they just had five friends like me and you around them, they're going to be like jacked and healthy all year round. If that's all who they're speaking to.
yeah, yeah. Oh no, I agree. I mean, they say that you're the sum of like what the five people you're closest with, or there's something about that. It's the old adage: you are the company you keep. Your network is that which you're connected to. I've been fortunate. I didn't have any interference. My household has had my mom, and she's been supportive of whatever I'm doing. She's been excellent with this. But then I feel like if you were living with somebody, someone would be healthier by default if you were eating the same diet, like, or
Mm-hmm.
even if they weren't measuring or tending it, if they're just eating the same foods, it would be a healthy default, like, and people would enjoy and kind of fall into that. But again, if you're used to, like, some people I think are just used to, like, I don't have time to cook, or I don't have time to fix anything, and they're used to got to get something from McDonald's on the way home from work, or just all the excuses of eating out with, we eat out every day for lunch with the people from work, or I don't know, just whatever it is that has become normalized, it becomes more of an emotional block and a resistant to,
Mm-hmm.
making a healthy change. Um, so
Yeah. And going back to the Ozempic users, I think one of the critical errors that's going to cause pretty much all of them to fail long term is not seeing their excess weight gain as a symptom. They see
yeah,
it as just the standalone problem to solve. Well, really, it's just a symptom of basically a belief system that doesn't facilitate health conscious choices over many, many, many years. And that's also a symptom like various things we can talk about. But at the end of the day, it's like with chronic disease, which excess weight gain is, um, if you don't change the person that's causing the disease always persists all the time, always. And a lot of people are like, oh, Ozempic has been used for like 20 years. I'm like, dude, it takes longer oftentimes than like 10 or 20 years to start documenting side effects from various medications. And there's already, even short term, a lot of documentation regarding serious side effects for the digestive system, in a sense of causing like paralysis of the stomach, et cetera, et cetera. Also, thyroid cancer. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, the critical issue is they're not meeting the problem at the level of the problem. And if you don't, the problem will always persist all the time. No matter how much you wish it not to persist, it will. And that's it. And just people can't really grasp that idea, because if they do, they'll be forced to find honest change, which will require them changing. That's it. And a lot of people just don't want to, they don't want to change. They want the results, but don't want to change the person that's holding them back from attaining those results.
I mean, you're speaking the truth for like, you can apply this to any category, but
Yeah, of
that's
course.
100% true. We are our own worst enemy. We are the one that holds us back from whatever the next level is until we're ready to do what it takes to get there. You only can have and own that which you actually earn is kind of what it kind of, there is no quick fix. There is no get out of jail free card, no escape hatch to discipline and work. And this is just like, that's just like a life embodied truth. I mean, in my forte, I know I do through astrology and stuff, but it's just like a truth of Saturn. But it's just a part of life that the way that you make progress and achieve and attain and all, it's tied to those concepts of concentrating some kind of effort. And I think there is such a, I don't know, it's this, I mean, it's all the stuff I see with the kids. It's all the social media. It's all the internet. It's all the stuff that we've been inundated with, that it's the bright lights of the Las Vegas world of everything flashing fast and dopamine fixation and all of the tantalizing reasons why I should just stay stuck, plugged up, and into all my problems.
Hmm.
And we're all trying to untangle it. And I think that as we're ready to make the change, we align with that which is the next resource that will upgrade and elevate and liberate us from whatever that bondage is. And it's an ongoing, perpetual process that's, forever happening. Um, so it was just like I said, someone else could help someone, with financial problems, and someone else could help somebody with, I don't know, astrological problems, spiritual. You are such a good expert for these matters of physiological health and wellness in a way that's integrated with integrity for effective, efficient results, for looking good, feeling good, being healthy, kind of like getting into what your natural aligned self would best be and moving towards your goals. I mean, and I know you work with so many different clients from different ages, and you got people that just want to get off their meds. Like that wasn't me. I'm not on any meds and I don't want to be. So, I mean, it was important, having someone that's not saying you need to take this or that and all, I mean, all of those things. So just aligning with a trainer is about I mean, aligning with anybody. What's the saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears? That's
Hmm.
true all over the board. All over the board, whatever you want to learn next. And I wanted to learn next what I was missing. I was clear enough that I was missing something about how to take my health, wellness, physique to the next point. And I could see and trust that you knew what you were doing and you were consistently producing these results in people my age and older. I didn't, I see, and I'm sure there's lots of great young people and all that, but like I've said, for myself, seeing someone younger attaining fabulous results doesn't inspire me the same way. I want something that lasts the test of time. And you see plenty, when people say, I'm too old for that. Well, I see people that look 50 that look fantastic, and I see people look 50 that look like they're, on their way out. It's all, but it's that the age is not the factor. It's how you are in alignment,
Hmm.
what you're doing, where you're investing your time and energy. They say you support that which you pay for. Well, you're also like voting in a sense. You vote with
Hmm.
your dollar. You vote with your health with what you put in your mouth. Like you have to be able to mindfully control and be honest about what you're putting in your mouth. Like when, like what you're eating, what you're consuming, because that's what constitutes you and affects your bodily, mental, your constitution. The constitution of your mind is that what you're listening to, you watching on stuff. I mean, it's all together. Your diet. What are you putting in your body? Um, and I feel like it's just it's continual graduation throughout life, different stages of graduating to deeper and higher levels and lessons and such like that. And my health journey got me to a point where I know how to work at a gym. I know that organic food is good, and I need some kind of getting to the point that I was ready for that next level, and you presented that. So my sincere hope for you is that you will, and hopefully from this starburst, continue to find more people in alignment that are a resonant match. Because anybody that can align and match with you, and if I can shine a light to help people align and match with you, I'm welcome to, because I'm confident that if someone works with you, it will work for them. You know?
Yeah.
If you put in the work. I mean, you were a great teacher. You were able to show the work that needed to be done, and I was ready to do it.
Well, what do you see? You're a teacher as well. Like, what do you see in the younger population today that could be some red flags leading forward to the future generations?
Oh, dude, what the kids eat, man, they are loading their system with absolute crap. The
Hmm.
current the currency of cool in the school is candy and Takis. So if you think about that, so it's like, of course, it's drugs are bad. The drug dealers aren't the drug dealers, it's candy dealers. It's kids with bagfuls of snacks.
Hmm.
Snacks are the currency at schools. That is like I just see book bags of donuts and Twinkies and Takis and they all eat it. And kids, everybody's body's different. It's funny how some kids can like eat garbage and still be skinny as a rail, and then other kids are obese or whatever. It's different across the board, but just because one person's eating garbage and is skinny or whatever the case may be, it doesn't make it any healthier, and it doesn't mean that it's not doing something else. It's still
Hmm.
not in alignment. But you can't tell kids that stuff, man. I've been a teenager. You're healthy, invincible. You're gonna live forever. I can eat McDonald's every day, whatever. So I see that mentality. It's very YOLO. You know,
Yeah.
that's the youth mentality. That if it's it's fun and it's experimental too. With like the kids with all. I mean the vaping, and all this kind of stuff. It's not kids smoking cigarettes anymore. It's vaping, and they will hit whatever somebody in the bathroom has for them, and they don't always know what they're doing. So I mean, just the idea of all the things, and kids, of course, are making the most uninformed decisions. All the things that people are willing to put into their body without really knowing and being sure about everything around it. So I see that a lot. I
Yeah.
do think that more kids. I mean, there's some kids that are couch potatoes, but I do see a fair amount of kids that are open to being active. They wanna be seen, at the gym at school or on a sports team. So I do see a fair amount of active. Um, but I do think that all for the most part, it's been rare. Like I've treated the class to like donuts at one point or whatnot, and it's a rare deal to have a kid in high school with the discipline. It's like, no, thank you to a donut.
I was
But
that
I have,
kid in
huh?
high school. I was
You
that kid
were?
in high school.
Well, you know what? I got a
I'm like,
couple
that's
of them that
disgusting.
were. Oh my gosh. Well, see, and one thing I know with this whole process, I have loved the healthy lifestyle transformation of it. I will continue to eat this way forever in some way, I imagine. It'll be a combination of it. But at the same time, I want people to know it's like, You think about being a renunciate. You must give everything away. No more gluten, no more cheese, what it's not giving anything away really. You stay as full as you want to. There's so many things to eat. You're gonna feel so great. All of this stuff. Um, but then once you get, when I was on that first phase, that fat loss and being extra disciplined and just shred it, I love knowing how to do that now. I love knowing that's possible. I love, the efficiency. And then now being in that healthy, the lifestyle phase of bulking a little bit more, which as I pointed out the other day, I think I'm about the same weight or close to where I started.
Mhm.
And it's just totally been reconstituted. It's totally different. Um, but the the idea when you do that and you're like, yeah, it's okay to eat out once or twice a week, that level, I still enjoy all the foods that are made other places that maybe I don't make that aren't part of my regular fill up the gas tank meals, which are what most of us eat throughout the week. If you think about how much stress people put on like, oh my God, what am I going to eat today? Oh my God, what are we going to eat? Where do you want to eat? Oh my God, all the decisions. It's so streamlined. My
Mhm.
trip to the grocery store is super simple. Like, I mean, I used to just like, ooh, let's try this. It was just I was a tryaholic. There's new stuff all the time. I'm restocking the same basic stuff repeatedly to fill up the gas tank, and I'm making meals that are great. I mean, you can work it how you want. Some people could do it exactly the same every day, but I've got a flow and a system that works through the menu and the options that works for me. But there's some dishes that like I ain't ever gonna make, and I love it and I want it, and so I can go out and have that, and it doesn't break anything. It's okay to still have a food that exists out in the world. You don't have to be a renunciate monk that gives everything away in entirety. It's about the lifestyle change and the intentionality and the motivation between what you're doing and why you're doing it. And that's what's reoriented, I think, in the process of working together with a coach like you.
Yeah. Also, it's just overall so much cheaper financially to be healthy and good looking because I don't know if a lot of people know, but like 80% of personal bankruptcies in the US just happen because of health issues, you know? And with 9 out of 10 Americans right now metabolically sick, that could be an economic disaster waiting to happen. 80% of people file bankruptcies because of health issues, and 90% of Americans are unhealthy. You can
See,
see kind of the disaster looming around the corner.
I am so blessed to be ignorant of all of that because that's not in my wheelhouse of expertise or anything that I've kept my eye on or whatnot. The health issues I've managed to stay away from some of the more disastrous kind of things that a a poor pattern can produce. Um, Throughout the time. But I can agree. I mean, yeah, it's like it comes back to when something's hard. People say it's expensive. It's expensive to eat healthy. Well, actually, it's expensive to have all of these health conditions and need all this medication or all these treatments. Or so. I mean, it's kind of like you pick your challenge. It's a challenge, and there's nothing wrong with a challenge. It's challenging to do it this way and it's challenging to do it a different way. And I think we have to pick the challenge that makes sense. And I think talk about the mental health epidemic of America. I think we've all just kind of been duped into thinking that the wrong things are right,
Mhm.
thinking that the not so healthy solution is working. It's just we've just been duped into thinking, however, we'll produce profit for something else. Whatever mentality will vampirically suck out our willpower and apply it to supply something else with profit. I think
Yeah,
that's the overarching thing.
yeah, yeah. Americans have been duped into believing what's not important is important, and what's important is not important, especially kind of their mental and physical health and stuff of
Yeah.
that sort. Um, yeah, and I would argue, go back into your statement, I would argue eating healthy is not expensive. It's actually extremely cheap. The thing is, the average American is spending, again, eight to $16,000 a year on non-essential expenses without even thinking twice about it or questioning it, like at all.
Yeah.
And that's already more than what a 2,000 calorie a day USDA organic diet costs. So they're already spending the money. It's not a money issue. It's that they have a mind virus that's making their decisions look like it's normal or benefiting them in any way. And even a lot of times, I show people these numbers and I'm like, look, you told me you're spending this. This is how much you're spending per year. And you just also told me you can't afford organic food or coaching. And they're like, well, okay, I'm still going to keep doing it. You know,
Have
it's
you
more of
heard?
a mind virus. It's just faulty programming.
You keep saying that. And have you read or heard of a term, the Wakito virus?
Yes, I just can't put my finger on it, but I have heard about it.
I feel
Um,
like that's kind of what we're dancing around describing, or whatever that archetype is. It's something that like Native Americans basically said white people have, which is um it's kind of not wrong.
mhm,
But the way they described it is just that acquisitional, it's just it's a lust in the wrong direction. It's a misplaced fervent desire that is destructive to others, destructive to self, and it's got this obsessive kind of rampant quality to it. But there's
right.
some books and stuff out there. I think it's Wekito virus, but it's an interesting concept that is kind of in this mix of what I see everybody waking up from in their own way. And it doesn't really matter what you call it. If it's, virus can all just be a metaphor. It's just, it's indoctrination and it's thinking and it's patterns that have crystallized in a non-advantageous way that we've all been kind of cultured into living in some respect that is not very respectful.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, yeah. Well, well, Nathan, do you have any other topics you want to cover? I'm happy to go whichever direction. I think we covered some great conversation points here already.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that would be helpful or useful to say about your program or my experience with it. I really wish, at some point, if I don't know if this has ever been done, but if you ever get questions, if you could collect like a sea of like concerns or questions or problems or I would, I'd be interested to kind of like respond to those in the sense that I feel confident that like if someone has like, well, I'd be interested in this, but, or well, I'm not sure how that would work. Like I feel like I feel confident in kind of addressing a lot of things that were blockages, and so I'm be curious what and why someone might not uh, take a plunge in this direction. But at the same time, again, it's not like, you know, and why and how and all of that. And everybody kind of get in where you fit in life tends to be what happens, regardless whether we try or not. It's kind of just more about whether we want to be an active component in what's happening around us, or if we just want to submissively, react to the default of what we let our environment and others dictate. Um, but for the people that, the more you want to take control and steer the ship in a good direction in a respect related to health, related to diet, look good, feel good, a lot, all of that. There's there's not a reason uh, or any good excuse to not commit to working with you. I mean, if those are the results that you want, if that is what you're looking for, you have that answer. So I mean, it's available. It's whether it's whether someone is ready or not, whether someone wants that next thing. Um, what what else in my experience, Eugene? Mm,
Well, I
I
think
feel
that's
like
pretty thorough. I know we're still working together technically. You're not done with the program yet, but
you want. I don't mind. I kind of want to do. Can I show off for a second?
well, this will be just a radio thing anyways. I'm
Oh,
just
really?
using the audio.
Okay.
So it's all
Oh, okay.
good. But
I
you
I
guys,
was going to be like, I mean, and I've got you've got some good after pictures from me anyway, but I have been much comfortable to show what my work has done. I feel really happy about it. So
Cool. I'm trying to kind of navigate where this light is like blind me here. You know?
yeah,
But all right, you guys. Well, Nathan, it's good to see. It's been like, can't believe it. It's already been like half a year, dude. It feels like our assessment was just like a few weeks ago.
it's
Um,
perfect though. But I'm getting ready to have a big birthday, and I wanted to. My thing was starting with you when I did. I wanted to be in the best shape of my life by the end of the year,
mhm.
and I know 100% that I'm there. So it's just going to keep on refining and getting better.
All right, you guys. And for everyone, the New Year's is right around the corner. So just remember, if nothing changes, nothing changes. Okay. It's a general rule, and usually the changes have to be quite great to have good, satisfactory results. So wishing everyone the best for the first or for the last few weeks of this year, and then uh, wishing everyone the best next year as well. And thanks for joining, Nathan.
All right, thanks for having me, Eugene. You have a good day.
Okay, you guys, have a good one.
Thanks for tuning into the podcast. If you've ever had trouble losing weight, or you've lost weight, but still didn't have the ideal body or health you're aiming for, please feel free to reach out anytime and book an assessment. Eugene will work with you to cover your goals in detail, see what's holding you back, and go from there. In the meantime, feel free to check out the countless testimonials on Eugene's website in the link below. In the testimonial section, you'll notice everyone has various backgrounds, are of all different ages, and all have had different challenges in their life, but they all have one thing in common: they were all able to find their health and achieve their ideal body. You're also welcome to add yourself to the Facebook group in the link below. There you'll have access to the live videos that Eugene does weekly on Sundays and other helpful content. Thank you again for tuning in.